Hello, hi, this is Kathy Frey, and welcome to this week's IMCO webinar. So that's the International Integrated Maternity Healthcare Organisation, and we're doing our weekly maternity natural health webinars. And this week we are rapt to have Betsy Schwartz. Betty, give a good wave and hello.
Hey everyone, wherever you are. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's just great. Now those of you who are signing in, if you would like to go into the chat area and let us know whereabouts you are from in the world and what health professional you are, that would be great. It's always nice to know our audience, and or you might be a mum expecting a baby, so that's neat to hear. And also just a reminder that down the bottom of the screen is the Q&A button, so if you've got any questions at all for Betsy during the this webinar, don't hesitate to type them in there. We'll absolutely make sure that they get covered off. So yeah, we're going to talk about Reiki today, which is one of those topics that I think so many people have heard of, but also often so many people really don't have much of a clue what it is or what it does. So that'll be really good that we're going to introduce that to you today, and how Reiki can help transform fear. So that particularly, to fear to do with your pregnancy and particularly labour and birth and that whole maternity journey, really. But before we get started, I'm just going to give a little introduction about Betsy, because I know some of you will be watching this later down the track. And so Betsy Schwartz has trained hundreds of postpartum doulas. That's really quite her specialty, and she's served hundreds of families herself as a postpartum doula, but she's got a real passion for sharing wisdom, which everybody has when they come on here, so it's always wonderful, and just really helping others to achieve their goals and find their passion, and she strives to be a joyful person and to bring joy to others. And I think in this world we're always dealing with those contrasts, aren't we, that we're not always, everything's not always joyful, and and that's the one thing that we can try and keep ourselves in, is that joyful place, even though sometimes you feel a little bit up against a wall. So it's that, but we're going to, as I say, talk about the topic particularly today about Reiki, so let's just let you. Oh, and also we might hear a little bit about maybe Betsy's passion for drumming, which is very cool. But yeah, so welcome.
Oh,
and it's neat to have you here.
Yes, it's so great to be here. And what you said about Reiki, that's the thing I've noticed in recent months, that I've been getting requests and calls for people that either want to receive Reiki or they want to learn more. So I think that interest is rising, although it has been around a long time.
Yeah.
But it seems that more recently there's been more of a curiosity about it.
Interesting.
For sure.
Yeah, I wonder if that's almost a reflection of more than 12 months at the stage of COVID, and just people thinking more holistically, because this has been such a time of realizing that medical science doesn't always have the answers. So people are kind of searching outside the square a little bit more on.
Yes, I think so. Yep.
Yeah. So do you want to start perhaps with let's give us an overview of more about you and what you do in Reiki, and where this comes from.
Sure. So, well, I have to first say that when I first learned of Reiki, it was in the mid-90s, and I was like, that's kind of weird, and I wasn't interested. So then fast forward to 2012 is when I said yes to Reiki, because the path that I was on, which was a spiritual quest for what else is there besides what I can see in front of me. There's more, there's got to be more to life, right? That whole, we all have those questions, those big questions about life. And that's when I happened on Reiki in a time that I was ready for it. And really, to explain it so simply, it's universal life force energy in its simplest explanation. And what does that mean, right? Like, what does that mean? So right here, there's energy. I can't see it, right? There's energy everywhere, in us, between us, around us, in everything. So, everything is energy. And Reiki is, the practice of Reiki, because really it's a practice. People do call it, it's a healing modality or it's a therapy. And yes, those things are true. It's really a practice. And not only is it's about energy and helping to move energy that's stuck, to really ignite healing in others. So I don't even say, oh, I'm a Reiki healer, right? Someone might come to me for whatever reason, mainly stress, anxiety, not sleeping well, all those things. Well, the things that stress causes in the body and the mind, right? So the idea is to help another person to ignite that healing within. Now they've got to believe that they can do that, because like anything, if you don't believe it, it's not going to work, right? But I have seen, from, as a witness, either as a practitioner and as a receiver of Reiki, things, that could happen in a good way. So really, like I said, it's that flow of energy. And as a practitioner, it's not my energy. I'm calling on the energy to come through me. And I'm calling on others maybe to help me, come in this session and, whether it's, God or guides or angels, whatever, right? So it's a focused attention on energy going where it needs to go within that other person to get unstuck, whether that's mental, spiritual, physical. And of course, that's all related, as you know, right? As a holistic practitioner, in Western medicine, we separate all the body parts. First of all, we separate mind, body, spirit, which is the three, right? I mean, we're one being, but we also separate the parts. You got to go to the toenail doctor, or, and the kneecap doctor. Every doctor is
absolutely,
right?
because the more that we learn medically, the more specialized things become, which makes sense from a point of view that one doctor can't know everything about everything, but then it's so disconnected it becomes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're treating your body like it's a whole little jigsaw puzzle, and of these individual parts, rather than realizing that impacts that, impacts that, impacts that.
Exactly. So what you're thinking is going to affect you physically, and vice versa, right? Because there's not a disconnect. We have just made it into a disconnect. I like to say that Reiki and acupuncture and some of these other modalities that we call alternative, I say that's the real medicine. That's my kind.
Yeah.
I think Western is the alternative. It's allopathic. We're treating disease. It's about getting to the root. If you really want to be well, it's mind, body, spirit, getting to the root. And we all have energy running through us. We have a subtle energy body. A lot of people have heard of chakras, right? Body chakras, the main energy centers.
Yes.
And that's what Reiki works on, is opening those centers, helping them communicate. About acupuncture, right? How they use the needles to, what do I call, like reconfigure the flow, or, have things flow.
Yeah, and it's all based on the meridian energy lines.
Exactly.
And I mean, easily 30 years ago, it was, acupuncture was not respected by allopathic medicine really very much at all. But these days, we are seeing that integration, which is fantastic. that there's, you know, recognition that it actually does something, but you still wouldn't want to have, there's still an uncomfortableness if you were talking to a, you know, say for example, an obstetrician who specializes in a gynecological infertility, and, you know, he may say, or she may say, you know, it's great to go and see an acupuncturist. We know that this can help. But then if you discuss it, well, yes, because it's improving the energy flow of your chi through your meridians. I kind of go, wow, it's like,
yeah.
It's like we do understand that it does something, but we're not going to agree to how it does what it does. And
well, true. Yeah, but that's true. Like, think about a cell phone, for example. Do you really know how that thing works? Like, yeah, we can video, and we have watches now. You can video and call people on the watch, and we don't know how that like really works.
Oh, I know. And I would definitely put GPS in that. I just think it's so amazing that I can drive along a road and it works out the best route to go somewhere.
I know, right?
I don't understand how it works. Like that's just amazing. I find it amazing that we can do that. And
Right.
yeah, exactly. But we use it, but we don't understand it. So maybe, so how do you do Reiki?
Okay, that's a great question.
Opening the mystery box a little bit for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. So someone can be seated or on a massage table. So picture that, however you're comfortable. And I'll kind of show you on myself. So as the practitioner, first I open the chakras, and it's a very light touch or a hover. So right now, like you see, my hands are kind of just hovering on my head. Now I could lightly touch. So it's never a manipulation or anything. And we work down on different parts over the chakras. And what happens is, before that, I usually do a little meditation, nice music, just to kind of set the mode. Because the hardest part for the receiver is to relax. For 1 hour, I do when I do a full session. And that is, you know, hard for people. You can do it in less time. So the relaxation is important. But what happens is most people do end up relaxing, not always the first time, but usually if they come maybe second or third time. And really all that person has to do is receive and be open to receive. And sometimes people feel heat in the area, or the practitioner feels heat, or sometimes cool, sometimes tingling, sometimes nothing. But the Reiki always works. It's intelligent. It just does what it needs to do. So what I will do normally, if I do have someone for a full hour session, is focus after I hear what they share with me, like what did you come for today, or what made you call me today, or then I give that extra attention focused. Again, I won't say I'm going to heal whatever it is, but I will give that extra focused attention, and they might do the same thing, whether it's mental, physical, spiritual, whatever. So really it's not even a laying of hands. It's a very light touch or a hover above. But you feel the energy. I mean, if you do this, like if anybody's watching, they just kind of do this with their hands, right? And then, you can feel the tingling, and you can almost feel that sort of in between energy. If you ever do Qigong, where you work with the energy, you get the big ball. So again, I think at first for people that aren't as in tune energetically as someone else might be, that they might want to just start feeling their own energy and getting in touch with that. And that Reiki will help with that. And there's also, when you learn Reiki, which anybody can really learn, there's principles that go along that you embody in your life. For example, just for today, do not anger. That's one of them.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating. And so, I mean, really, we can explain it that it's like sending the energy of love through you as a conduit.
Right.
Through your hands to that other person's aura. And, I know that we do look like solid forms. Everything in this world looks solid. But of course, at the end of the day, it's not. That's just what it looks like. You know, we're basically we're energy, and a whole lot of space in between. You know, where the valence shields are of the electrons and the nucleus and whatnot. There's a whole lot of space in between. So, and that's that energy. You know, it's and that's where you know, the science is catching up, really, isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah,
Big
the more
time.
we learn, the more we realize that so many ancient practices have been working in that field for a long time. So can you do you want to just explain a little bit more about your background from that postpartum doula perspective and how that sort of works in with Reiki and how you've come to sort of blend those two?
Yeah, sure. So actually, in fact, I had mentioned earlier that in the mid 90s, I wasn't attracted to Reiki. Now that's when I was doing a lot of doula work, a lot of in-service work, working with new families, working with the moms of babies. And then I started training in, well, late 90s, early 2000s. And still really, so I had not had Reiki incorporated, to be quite honest, into my practice then. Now, I wish. So again, fast forward 2012 is when I really started to embrace Reiki and became a practitioner and then a master, which makes me able to teach and share and attune people. So quite honestly, I've worked with a variety of people, you know, from all walks of life, but I've not actually had a lot of experience with the pregnant mom. I've had calls. I actually had a few calls, but haven't worked with some of those people as of yet. But what I've been doing is I incorporate it everywhere in my life. So I share it with everyone, not necessarily the practice, but I will talk about it. If people are open to it, of course, you know, they will come to me. But what I've seen in the research, like you were talking about earlier, it's so promising because it's not invasive, it's not harmful. You can use it with anyone, anytime, anywhere. You don't have to get, you know, permission. Will this interfere with this or that medication or whatever? And so the research, which I hope you'll share in the link, I think after you send out something, right?
Yes. So for those that have registered to attend this webinar, live or later, they will receive a email automated through Zoom with more information. But of course, some of our watchers here will be much later down the track, so they won't be receiving the email. So it's still good to kind of mention some of this information live on here.
Okay, so yeah, what I was going to say was, so there's a Center for Reiki Research. They've been around a long time. They just recently upgraded their site, but you can actually get on there as a free member, and you can get links to all the research, like you know, whatever it has to do with anxiety, stress. There's a recent one that I had just noticed about women going to the hospital for any kind of OB-GYN you know, procedure or whatever they're going in for, the reduction in stress and anxiety, and also in pain. For example, cesarean. There's a great article on that showing the reduction in pain and need for meds in that instance. There's also, this is one I love near and dear to my heart because, well, let me just back up 1 minute. Where I live in a very rural area, we don't have a very high birth rate. You know, there's more elderly in a sense in the population, but the population we have, there's a lot of drug addiction. And I know that is an international or national problem, at least. So a lot of babies are born with, you know, substance exposed newborns. So a lot of babies are born needing to kick the habit, so to speak, or kick, you know, withdrawals. But the good thing is I just saw this article that came out recently about it's safe. to give Reiki to those newborns. So at least they're calling it safe. Now we need more research, but it's clearly something that can be used and anybody can learn. In fact, nurses have something similar that they learn called Therapeutic Touch. I don't know if you've heard of that. So it's a little bit different, but very similar to Reiki when I've talked to nurses. And actually one came to a recent Reiki class and she said, oh yeah, it's very similar, but there's a few other things in there because of the medical licensing and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit different. But the research is promising. It clearly, Reiki can be used for pregnant couples can learn so that they can help each other reduce that stress. And the thing about
absolutely, I mean that's particularly for your birth support person, you know, it's a great tool to have for them to have in their tool belt to be able to help their partner in labor.
yes.
Yeah, and it's just getting that partner to get their head around that sometimes.
Right.
Yeah,
and getting them early, you know, early on in the pregnancy or even before that, really, that's why, you know how it is. And
yeah, so in an ideal, in your opinion, in an ideal sort of scenario, what do you think would be the optimum things that a pregnant woman could do to benefit her pregnancy and her preparation for labor and birth from a Reiki perspective? You know, I mean, how do you think is best that she can self-help and, you know, find out more and do more? What do you kind of recommend?
what I recommend is laying hands on yourself. Anybody and everybody can do that. So in fact, when you take a Reiki course, the first 21 days is all about self-healing. So you can, anybody, I do every night. I got my hands somewhere. So simply laying hands, like, you know, of course they, you know, we always lay hands on our bellies when we're pregnant or other people, but maybe not. Sometimes there's a disconnect. We know that not every pregnant woman is connecting with her unborn baby.
No, I mean,
so
you know, 50% of pregnancies are not planned. You know, so that can take this, there can be an adjustment process involved in that. Sometimes we have to go, thank goodness we have 9 months to get our head around it.
Right, exactly, true. So laying hands, talking to that baby, but laying hands anywhere and appreciating and honoring self.
So if that still feels, you know, outside their comfort zone of feeling like they're actually doing something effective, and not getting it wrong, you know, which is so often that, so I know, right? But you just, this is the sort of, you know, you can't get it wrong. It you know, there is no wrong, but, you know, people do, there's such a, for want of another word, anal, kind of wanting in pregnancy to get it all correct. You know, and so is there a resource that you would recommend that practitioners tell their pregnant woman about, or, you know, our birth practitioners, etc., or the woman themselves could seek to sort of learn a little bit more about helping themselves with that?
Yeah, so there's another great website, Reiki Raise, it's called, and all kinds of free resources, just learning more about what Reiki is and what it can do, and books and all kinds of stuff. So the research one is probably more for the practitioners that, you know, really want to get a handle on the research. But the other one, is very wealth of information. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so Reiki Raise, so as an R-A-Y-S?
R-A-Y, yeah, that one is Reiki Raise.
Reiki Raise, and that's particularly good for the expectant mother.
For anybody who's interested, I mean, in learning what it could do. Expectant mothers, not excluded. Yes.
And repeat again the website name for the one that has the research.
Center for Reiki Research.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yes.
So though that's really fantastic having that
Yes.
those resources there mentioned. So what do you find is the main things that Reiki or can effectually assist with for pregnancy and birth prep and labour and whatnot? What do you find the commonest uses that it makes that difference for?
Well, we know that, and especially now, everyone is really stressed out, and a lot of pregnant women are stressed out, even prior to this year, but I think even more so, we're seeing the numbers rise with everything that's been going on in our world. And that is the main thing that Reiki hits on. I mean, it can heal physically. I've known people that have had earaches, headaches, all kinds of stuff heal and feel better. But we know that stress creates such havoc on the body. And when you're stressed in pregnancy, of course, you've got another life that you're also dealing with, that you're growing, right? So what it does is, it just gives you that heart rate variability. It reduces your blood pressure, lowers your blood pressure, helps you to sleep better, digest better. So it really improves on all those functions. And that's, I think, really the beauty of it, because you could be, as a pregnant woman, you could be experiencing any kind of, it could be something physical that's going on as well. I know that, you deal with that, clinically. But stress aggravates everything, and in fact can also create some of these things. You mentioned infertility a while back. I don't think we know all the reasons, and the doctors want to deal with the physical aspect, but there's many other reasons for infertility that probably start with
absolutely
pregnancy, right?
Absolutely.
So,
and of course, I've been a research midwife myself, based at university, and it's the thing that comes through loud and clear is that the more we study, the more we realize we don't have a clue.
You know what, we're so in our heads, and really I think it all is also a matter of going from the head to the heart. And I've been pregnant twice. It's been years, so I've past that. But I remember I loved being pregnant, but I can't say I wasn't a little bit stressed and anxious, both times about different things, right? Just because whatever's going on in your life is with you. You can't separate your pregncy from the life you're living and have lived prior to
you can be in that place of worrying about worrying. And I know that for myself personally, my second pregnancy was a nightmare because we had some other stuff going on that we could not get out of our lives. I was incredibly stressed. The pregnancy was the least stressful part, but I was stressed with other things. A lot of times women can be in that situation where it's not even their self-induced stress that is where Reiki can really help with that. Just sort of, not worrying about things you shouldn't need to be worrying about. But there's those stresses that we know we can't get out of our lives. So it could be the husband's lost a job, or the mother-in-law's dying, or you've received you've been told at the anatomy scan that things are not normal. Anatomically, or there's so many other outside stresses that sometimes it can be impossible to remove those from your life because they're in your life and you have to deal with them. And this is another tool to your tool belt. I think like one of the things that we know is just pregnant or not pregnant is just fantastic for ourselves is to start the day with some meditation. And maybe it's a case of starting the day with some meditation that's embracing Reiki. So having that consciousness of where you're placing your hands, maybe rather than just lying down on next to you, having your hands on you, particularly on your belly when you're pregnant, every morning for sort of 10 or 15 minutes, and like, are we sort of
mindset.
On track?
Mindset shift. And in fact, there's some great anywhere on YouTube, you can find the most amazing chakra balancing, different frequencies that you can listen to. They're just all over. You just look them up, Google them in, and you can definitely change what's going on in your brain with sound, with different sounds and frequencies. Again, right? Energy, frequency.
Yes.
The goal is to raise your vibration. So here's the thing. When you are stressed and fearful and anxious and angry and jealous, those are low vibrating energies. Emotion is energy in motion, right? So when you're experiencing those emotions, you're vibrating low. When you experience more joy and happiness, bliss, I'm not saying that's easy in every moment, but when you can tap into that, and it takes practice. I'm a work in progress every day. I don't always wake up like, oh, everything's great. Okay, that doesn't happen. But you can set yourself up and you can experience more of those emotions. And I know in pregnancy, if you are stressed for other outside, I've been there for sure. Yeah. The first time was a horror. I was 7 months pregnant and I was deserted by my now deceased ex-husband, lifetime ago. But was I stressed? Completely. Did I have some of these tools? No, I did not. I wasn't as aware of a lot of these tools that you've been bringing to everybody, including the Reiki. So that's why I'm on this mission. Hey, learn this now, learn it early, learn it before you're pregnant. The principles, one of them is do not worry. Just for today, do not worry. So when things are out of our control, how do we respond? How do we react or not? Because we're all going to have stress.
That's right. And pregnancy is a journey, and labor particularly, and birth, they are journeys that are traditionally outside of our control. And that can be really challenging to cope with when you are a woman who is used to being in control. And realizing that there's other influences impacting it all, and sometimes you just have to let the reins go and say to yourself, everything's going to work out fine in the end.
Right.
It'll all be fine in the end, and everything always works out for me, and let's just go with the flow and chill out and relax. And a lot of you know that I'm a New Zealander, a Kiwi, and a common saying here is sweet as. And look, it's just sweet as. It'll sort itself out. Don't stress. No worry.
Yeah, just for today, do not worry. It takes practice.
Just for today. And you can say that to yourself, just for today, or just for this morning, or whatever it is. And can you go into another sort of area of the topic, though, particularly what's I'm thinking of particularly relating Reiki to labor, and obviously, so there is really labor's got several parts. You've got preparing for labor, you've got that latent labor, strong active labor, and so talk to us about Reiki and how you've seen that fits in well, and how, and the ways to help it fit in.
Well, so the thing is, I know, so I mean, I'm not a birth doula, but I did go to births many years ago for a couple of years. So I just want to, say that. But what I will say is that I know birth doulas, they always want to have their bag or their suitcase, bring all the tools, bring them on, right? Yeah. And what we know about the original studies is that it was simply, I'm here for you. I'm present. No, not even maybe many words spoken, right? Just that there was a physical presence, energy of another woman in the room. Those are those original studies, Marshall Klaus, years ago, right? So if we think about that, and we think about Reiki as energy, right, and the practitioner as a conduit, some of it is intuitive. Okay, birth is intuitive, right? We're so in our head. We need to get out of our head once we learn everything, just like throw and drop. And That's the hard part, I think, for many
It
women.
is, and I think that particularly with the first-time mums, to be when they spend so much of their time in the pregnancy focusing on their career obligations and work and fitting that in, and it's like the pregnancy has to fit in around their other obligations, which I know in a way it does. That's a practical way to look at it. But actually, it needs to be reversed, that the work needs to fit in around the pregnancy obligations to yourself and looking after yourself and having plenty of opportunity to prepare mentally, spiritually, emotionally for that labor, etc. And I imagine that really practicing Reiki, say, every day, in the pregnancy is going to set that woman up so much better for those tough emotional parts of the labor journey.
Right. And just so in saying that, being in touch with her own energy and her own body, the more that can be. And if there's a partner also, just the more that can be familiar and knowing what helps, her to relax or to breathe easier, not only just learning the breathing, but there's certain spots where just say, there's a lot of back labor, for example, right? And a lot of doulas or partners or, midwives are gonna, massage and work that area. Now that can be done, but you could also lay hands, in areas of pain. And also there's acupressure points, right?
Absolutely.
And you can lay like the feet. I love being at the feet. I don't know, as a Reiki practitioner, because I know that there's a lot of points there. Now, I'm not necessarily massaging, although, you can with permission, women in labor can, if you know the spots, right? If you know those points that correspond, but you can even just, hold a foot. And sometimes what happens, this is really cool with Reiki, is that oftentimes, and this has happened to me and people report to me, that just say I'm here on somebody, for example, and then I go to another spot. Sometimes you still feel the same sensation or the heat, or just say around the energy center. So that's really cool too. Like you could still feel it even if the person leaves that area, the Reiki practitioner.
And I know that the postpartum is really your particular specialty as a doula, and with Reiki, I guess, as well. So, how are you incorporating that into your practice?
So currently I'm training, and I actually just redeveloped and redesigned my postpartum doula training. It's called Doula Quest. And I'm incorporating transformational principles and coaching. It's not just a course, it's online, but it's going to be an intimate small group. And I plan to incorporate the Reiki in with the doulas that are training to get them in, to see how they feel about Reiki and increase the interest there so that we can have practitioners, out there giving Reiki. So I'm incorporating that into my training somewhat with the postpartum doulas that I'll be bringing on in my next go around and upgrade of the course I've been teaching. So that's
so with your doula quest postpartum training, can you just we specifically try not to use these webinars as a marketing platform, but people want to know at the same time. So can you tell us a little bit more about the practicality of that particular course and how long it runs for or how it works? So, because obviously we've got an international audience.
So I didn't mean to give a commercial just to say I do a lot of different things, but yes, postpartum has been my thing for many, many years. So it's a 4-month program. So it's designed to really have somebody immerse not only in the information, but to work as a group, for people to buddy up as well, to hold each other accountable, to also.
And then how often do you meet? So I guess you Zoom it. So how often do you meet over the 4 months?
So it's going to be twice a month. The first group, I'm planning to start August 1st. So I'm just starting to put it out there in the world right now. It was something else. It was just in a little bit different form. So
Yes.
So at any rate, yeah. So the goal is twice a month as a group. Then they get me one-on-one 4 times through that time. But also one of my biggest things, and this just has to do with training in general, is that there's a lot out there. And I did train for 2 large organizations in the past, but I march to the beat of a different drummer and play the drums now.
Yes.
So I wanted to do my own thing and say what I want and do what I want. And I feel that some of what's missing is the intimate connection. So I'm about creating connection and mentorship and ongoing, and for people to actually get out and work with somebody while they're working with me and with the group. So it's not like, oh, you take your training and then you got to do all these other things and then you got to find your clients kind of thing. So it's kind of, I really wanted to integrate different things that I've learned that have helped me in my life, not just as a doula, but life in general. And some of those transformational principles and questions to ask and how to dig deep and do this work. And Reiki does that as well. So I'm at this crossroad of combining all of who I am in my cronehood.
Yes.
What am I really about and what am I bringing to the world? So I'm just working on combining it all as you have me at this moment in time.
Right. Oh, actually, and I'm curious to learn more about your original board game. Tell us about that.
Thanks for asking. So yeah, and it's, because of an entrepreneur and I got, I'm doing this, and then I've been really trying to focus, but the game has been out since 2016. It was a 3-year process in the making before I gave birth, a very, very long pregnancy and labor, just want to say. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. So it's the board game that you would use as a childbirth educator, doula, or couples at the table, families, to learn about all there might be to know about birth in the hospital, birth center, home birth, midwives, obstetricians, pros and cons, risks and benefits of all kinds of stuff. 240 questions to test your birth knowledge on all those kind of topics, breastfeeding included, newborn care. And I'm not in my office, I'm in my mom's office because of the reception, but you'll get a link. You'll see the link. Anyway, but it's a really cool looking board.
Well, again, for those that won't receive an email because they're watching this later, what is the link for that?
So I'm just redoing everything also.
Okay.
At this moment, but there is a link. Well, it's let's say, so down the canal, the game of birth, you can go to Linktree. I got to think of the new. I've got everything housed there for now until my website is kind of on.
Okay. What's the website address?
So my website currently now is birthinthe.know.org, and actually,
say it again a little slower for everyone.
birthinthe.know.org.
Yes. Okay. birthinthe.know.org. So basically, down the track, if you want to get a hold of the game, and so that you can go through those questions. I mean, if there'll be a link, I guess, on the website, or they can message you through the website to find that out. So is that available as a free resource, or people pay for that?
Oh no, it is a purchase, but I have free shipping. It's it's pretty low. I mean, it's under $40, just to say.
Oh, right.
It's not,
okay. But it's obviously quite comprehensive. Yeah.
It's very comprehensive and it's fun. So here's the thing. Right. Okay. When you are having fun, you learn more. Bottom line. And that's science. There's science to that.
Yes.
So that's
that's wonderful. Well, we're getting close to our time now. So is there anything that we've missed in this? Anything else that you would like to add in talking about Reiki to do with pregnancy, birth, postpartum?
I guess it's going to repeat, but the more that you can do to find ways to relax and balance, the easier not only pregnancy and labor, will be ideally, but life in general. And so I think what I'd like to say is, even if these things can be learned before pregnancy, how beautiful to step into it with some of the knowledge. But certainly it's never too late to start practicing something that can tune you to your own energy and to help you balance that energy to deal with those unexpected things that do come up, whether it's in life or your pregnancy itself or the birth. And not to minimize things that could be, very tragic, but it's always how we respond and the tools we have to be able to respond. And there's love in this fear.
And I think you've really hit the nail on the head there, that it's about having the tools to be able to respond in a way that is not detrimental to yourself or your pregnancy. It's having those tools on how to do that. Myself and a Australian gynecologist obstetrician run a Facebook page called Ask the Maternity Gurus, and we basically just answer questions that women are really struggling particularly in their pregnancy, to get a solid answer on. Often it's medically based, but Dr. Google just can make life very confusing. And one of the things that just does not cease to amaze me is how often women will say, when they're only 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks pregnant, and they will say the words like, "I'm so worried about." And with our own children being in their 20s, I'm just sitting thinking, you're worried now. Like,
I know. Just wait.
You're going to be worried forever. It's not like once I answer this question for you, your worries about your baby will disappear. It's not. I think probably the most worrying time there is practically as a parent is when your kids have got their driver's license for the Right, it's not that you don't trust them, it's just that that you're more experienced as a driver than they are, and experience adds to safety when it comes to driving. So you're not going to be without worries. You're always going to have worries and concerns, and because you care for them and you're a good loving mother, but you need to have those tools to be able to keep those worries in check.
Yeah. And
right?
Just just back to energy. So love is the universal energy. Love is the purest energy, but there's love in this fear. And I remember when I was going through this transformational training program several years back, and one of the trainers said, think, what would love do? So a lot of choices that are being made are fear-based versus from a space of love, but we got to get into that space and that, that place and space.
Yes, that's a good one. Just asking yourself, what would love do? How would love react to this? Yeah. Brilliant. So really, it's at the end of the day, hopefully this has been very useful for those of you watching, that you just sort of, if you've known the word Reiki but didn't really understand what it does or how it does it, hopefully we've just sort of increased that understanding, so that you've got more feeling of accessibility to it. But yes, anything final that you want to add, Betsy, and then before we wind this up?
Well, this is one of my drums.
This
is the frame drum. And the reason I brought this in and not the djembe is because this frame drum, I'm learning now with a group of women. And there's a book I love to share called When the Drummers Were Women, but there's a lot in there about birth and the drum and the vibration that I'm just learning. This is from, ancient times, ancient ceremonies, sacred ceremony. It was always the women, and we were revered and honored, right? We were the goddesses. So this is really cool. Just look up the frame drum, look up Lane Redman. the cool thing is,
Can you spell that?
yeah, Layne, Lane, and then Redmond, Redmond.
Okay.
She went to high school here where I live now. And we're learning from some of her students. And it's just, I have goosebumps. It's just amazing. So I wanted to share
Wow.
that. It's a really fun drum to learn.
And, you know, I mean, birth is primal and drumming
Yes,
is primal.
exactly.
And yeah, the two do make sense to go together. Amazing. Look, it's been really great to have you here today, Betsy. Thank you for your time, and thank you to those of you that come on live as well. We've gone through any Q&As that came up today. They've been ticked off, and you know, we look forward to seeing those of you at future webinars, and it's great. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
It's been fun. Pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, Betsy.